So you're thinking about moving to Auburn, California, but before you pack the U-Haul, you're wondering if there's anything that's challenging about living in Auburn that might be a deal breaker for your family. And maybe you don't have time to watch 12 different pros versus cons videos. You just want a quick list of everything that's challenging about living there so you can make sure there's not a deal breaker on there for your family. If so, then this video's for you. Now look, I love Auburn and I think it represents some of the very best of what Northern California living has to offer, but every town has its challenges. So here's a list of 10 shocking truths about living in Auburn, California, so you can make sure there's not a deal breaker on this list for your family. All right, before we jump in here, quick disclaimer. Every time I make one of these videos that's just a list of the negatives about a place, people light me up in the comment section, especially people who live there and love their town. And they say, you're a realtor, what are you doing telling people all this negative stuff about our town? Look, I have a more balanced take. If you're looking for a balanced take at the end of the video, I'll put a link up to my pros and cons of living in Auburn video and even Auburn versus Placerville so you can see how it stacks up against another nearby town. This video is for the quick decision makers who just want to see all of the challenges in one place real quick so they can make sure there's not a deal breaker on this list. Because if there's a deal breaker here, you don't even need to watch the pros and cons video. But rest assured, people who live in Auburn, I do have a more balanced take for you, and you can click on that at the end of the video. If you want to fast forward to that, you can go in the comments down below. I'll link it there as well. Now let's jump right into the first thing that might make Auburn not the right fit for your family. So reason number one, you might not want to move to Auburn is heat. It's hot here, and you wouldn't think that because it's a little mountain town up at elevation, and people associate that with cooler temperatures, but that's really not the case in Auburn. It's hot here, like triple digits a lot of the summer hot, even though it is an awesome little mountain town and it is a bit above sea level. It's just hot. It is right above Sacramento. The Central Valley's hot, heat rises. Auburn is hot in the summer. So if you don't like hot, dry summers, then Auburn might not be the place for you. Now the shoulder seasons in Auburn are amazing. Spring and fall are incredible, but we've got hot summers and cold winters. And if you don't like that, then it might just not be the right fit for your family. And it's something that I think catches my clients out when they move here because they're thinking, little mountain town, cool temperatures, and that is just not how it shakes out here. Auburn is hot in the summers. If you made it this far and you're getting anything at all out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit that little bell icon so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you with your relocation. Now back to our list of 10 reasons you might not want to move to Auburn in 2025. Reason number two that you might want to reconsider moving to Auburn is fire insurance. Now this is my least favorite one to talk about. I have to talk about it in every video, and this is not Auburn specific. The entire foothills, the entire western slope of the Sierra Nevada is affected by this. Most of the state of California is affected by this. Oakland Hills, you're gonna have high fire insurance. Down in the LA area, high fire insurance. We're not even a year out from the devastating fires in the LA area. They're gonna be suffering from these high fire insurance premiums as well. So what can you expect? You can expect probably no less than $6,000 a year annual premiums to insure nearly almost any house in Auburn. You might find some little pockets, or you might get down to 3,000, 4,000, but I wouldn't even expect that to last. I'd wrap your mind around if it's not 6,000 today, it's gonna be 6,000 in the near future annual premiums. Now, very easily it can be 9 or 10,000. And if you're a large custom home on acreage, it's gonna be very expensive to replace. I've seen policies as high as $21,000 to $25,000 annual insurance premiums. But I tell people to budget for the $6,000 to $9,000 range, and you're probably gonna do pretty well. Now, the reason this is important is because it does limit your buying power. You can buy less house in Auburn than you might be able to buy down the hill in a place where fire insurance is a little bit easier. It also affects your payment because most of you are going to be getting a loan on the property. Now, when you're getting a loan on the property, your lender is probably going to require you to have an impound account so that they pay your taxes and insurance for you so they can make sure it's paid. Now, when you're looking around on online loan calculators early in your search before contacting a lender, you might be just plugging in some numbers and getting some really attractive looking mortgage payments. But if you look at that little insurance line like bankrate.com, which is a really popular mortgage calculator for people to use, they put in there as the default $66 a month for your insurance. And I'm telling you, you need to be banking on a minimum of $500 a month. That's a big difference in payment. It also has wonky numbers in there for the taxes. Your taxes are going to be about 1.25% of the purchase price of your property. So if you're playing with online loan calculators, make sure you get that insurance and taxes number right, or else you're going to get some big sticker shock when you actually call and talk to one of my preferred lenders and find out, oh boy, this is what the payment actually is. So fire insurance is costly. It affects the amount of your monthly payments. And as such, if you're on a tight budget, it affects how much home you can buy to stay within your same payment comfort. So if you're to buy a home in Folsom, where the insurance is maybe $3,000 annual premiums, then you go and look at a home in Auburn with $6,000 annual premiums, you can buy less home in Auburn than you can in Folsom while staying at that same payment comfort. So that's a big deal. Also, aside of the insurance issue, there is sort of the fear or the ever-present risk of fire that comes with living in the foothills. This one I find doesn't really affect me significantly, but for some of my clients, it does. It's always kind of in the background and bothering them and worrying them, and that's just a quality of life issue that you need to decide how you're going to feel about that one. Either way, homeowners insurance is more expensive here in the foothills than most people expect, and it's something you need to know before moving to Auburn. Right about now, you're wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about Auburn, real estate, or anything at all, really, and that's a pretty fair question. My name is Rich Curtis with EXP Realty, and I've been selling homes up here in the foothills for 21 years now, in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. So when it comes to foothills real estate, I've got you covered. Now, let's jump right back into our list of 10 reasons you might not want to move to Auburn, California. Reason number 3 that you might not want to move to Auburn, California is high home prices. Now, as of the recording of this video in the fall of 2025, the median home price in Auburn is $700,000. Now, depending on where you're coming from, $700,000 probably doesn't sound that bad. If you're coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, where the median home prices, depending on the community you're in, are 1.4 to 1.7 million, this is a relative bargain. If you're coming from LA, where the median home price is 1.4 million, again, this looks like a bargain. But for the surrounding towns, look at Placerville, which is on the Highway 50 side, but a very analogous town. I have a Auburn versus Placerville video for you that I'll link to at the end. They're very similar towns. Median home price in Placerville is $515,000 versus Auburn's $700,000. So it is, by local standards, a little bit expensive. Now, often people are living down in the Sacramento area, thinking about moving up to the foothills, or looking at Sacramento and the foothills and trying to decide, and they make the assumption that Auburn's going to be a little bit cheaper because it is a little rural mountain town. But actually, when you look at a bigger city like Roseville, just down the hill from Auburn, Roseville's got a median home price of $652,000 as of the recording of this video. So cheaper than Auburn. Also, your fire insurance, as we talked about in the last section, is going to be cheaper down in Roseville. So you can buy a lot more home for your money down in Roseville than you can for Auburn. So at a median home price of $700,000, are you going to get sticker shock in Auburn? Probably not. It's going to blow your hair back in terms of California real estate, where the median for the entire state is $900,000. No, it's not. But by local standards, it is a more expensive little rural town, and you can get more bang for your buck in other towns around the area. And I think most people don't expect that, so it's one that's worth talking about. Reason number 4 you might want to consider not moving to Auburn is suburban sprawl. I think this one catches people by surprise. Again, that's why I say these are shocking truths about Auburn. It is a little rural mountain town, and it does have a little historic gold rush downtown that's really, really cool. Even if you never move here, it's worth checking it out and coming down and having a beer and walking around Old Town Auburn. It's a really neat place. However, when you get outside of downtown Auburn, it feels decidedly less rural than some other towns like Placerville or like a little town like Colfax just up the hill from Auburn. It has a distinct suburban sprawl build out to the place, especially on the Highway 49 corridor, where all the shopping is and the big box retail is, where you've got your auto dealerships, your Big Five, your Home Depot, your Harbor Freight, all that stuff. It was built out in a little more of a sprawling suburban manner than you would expect from a little mountain town. If you stay right in downtown, you've got that quaint mountain town feel, but if you get out of downtown, it has that suburban sprawl. And some of my clients, as we tour the area, once we get out of the downtown area, are like, well, wait a second, we're trying to get out of the burbs, and this feels a lot like the burbs. So it's something unexpected about Auburn that you should know before thinking about moving here. All right, reason number 5 you might want to consider not moving to Auburn is traffic and commute times. Let's tackle commute times first. So if you're living in Auburn, and we'll talk about this a little more in the job section later, there's not a lot of local jobs on offer. So you're likely, a lot of you, going to have to commute down to Sacramento for work. Now, Sacramento has one of the most diverse and robust job markets of any major metro in the state of California. So it's a great place to have access to, but it's going to be 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes of commute time, depending on traffic and all of that. And you do have to get through Roseville if you're going to be working in Sacramento. Now, if you're in healthcare, you might be able to stop in Roseville and not deal with this completely, but you have to get through Roseville and that Highway 65, Highway 80 interchange traffic and the Sacramento traffic. So during the commute times, you're going to spend a little bit of windshield time if you're living in Auburn to get access to the job market down there. It's something you might want to consider. So in addition to that commute traffic down to Sacramento, there's another kind of traffic, a local traffic that you need to know about before moving to Auburn. And that is the Highway 49 shopping corridor traffic. I talked about it in the last section. It's the major shopping area for Auburn, but it's also a commute corridor for people who live out in Grass Valley and Nevada City. They're going to commute via Highway 49, and there's a lot of people going back and forth. Now, some of those people are going all the way to Sacramento, but they got to get through Auburn to get home. Some of them are coming to Auburn for work because there's more work in Auburn than there is in Nevada City and Grass Valley. But no matter how you slice it, that Highway 49, especially coming into North Auburn and getting through the whole shopping district section of Highway 49 there, can get pretty rough during commute times. There's also a lot of schools along that section of 49 as well, and so that can be a little rough during pickup and drop-off time. It's a local traffic pattern, but it can have you tearing your hair out at the end of the day, and depending on which way you've got to go at what time of day, it can really impact your life. And it's something I think people discount. They think little rural mountain town, I'm not going to deal with traffic, but that's not the case. These are some things you need to know about before you consider moving there. Look, if by the end of this video you still aren't sure if Auburn's right for you, or maybe you're comparing it to Placerville, comparing it to Roseville, or you just want some personal advice on your move, because let's face it, there's no general advice in real estate that's any good. Real estate is hyper local and hyper personal. Feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen and in the description down below. Like I said, I've been selling homes up here for over 20 years now. I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land in the foothills, and I'm always happy to help. All right, let's jump right back into the end of our list of reasons why you might not want to consider moving to Auburn in 2025. Reason number 6 not to move to Auburn is that it's on PG&E for power. Now, PG&E is far and away the most expensive power in the state of California. If you go just down the hill to some of the communities that are on SMUD, like Folsom, that's going to be nearly half the price of paying PG&E for power. But it's not just the most expensive power, it's also the least reliable power. PG&E has been responsible for a lot of fires in the state, and as such, they get pretty froggy when the wind starts blowing and it's hot out, and so they'll shut the power down for a bit to reduce the risk of fire. They call them public safety power shutdowns, and it can be pretty rough. I've had them be as long as 3 days. Now, to be fair, the last time they really did this was in 2020, and it was 3 days long, and it was pretty rough. However, since then, they've been getting better and better with this, but it does happen if you don't have a generator or solar with power walls or that sort of thing. It can be pretty rough to have your power shut down for several days. They also will get peak grid traffic times during the summer when it's the hottest out and everybody's using their air conditioner down in Sacramento, and they'll do some rolling brownouts for an hour or two to relieve pressure on the grid. So not only are you paying double what other people are paying, but sometimes you don't even get anything for your money when they shut the power down, and that can be a little frustrating. Now, is that a reason not to move to Auburn? I wouldn't say so. It does bother me, it does make me angry, but it doesn't really affect my life all that often or all that much. But it's something you need to know about moving here, and it is something you need to consider when taking the total cost of living of Auburn in. So let's go back and talk about some of the points from earlier and put this all together. You know, if you compare it to a town like Roseville just down the hill, well, Auburn $700,000 for a house, Roseville $652,000 for a house. Auburn going to be $6,000, $9,000 for insurance annually. You can probably get insurance for $3,000 down in Roseville. And Roseville, although it's not on SMUD, it's on Roseville Electric, which is half the cost of PG&E as well. So you're paying half for your power a month. You start to stack all this up, and the overall cost of living down in Roseville is far, far less. The overall cost of living down in Folsom is going to be far, far less. Medium home price going to be a little bit more expensive in Folsom. I think $800,000 as of the recording of this video. But there again, the power is SMUD, so you're getting a lot less. And the insurance is going to be more like that $3,000 a year. So your buying power is more down the hill than it is in Auburn. So you better really love all of the good things about Auburn, these small, rural, mountain town vibes and all the recreation, all the great stuff, which you can check out in that pros versus cons video that I'll link to at the end. But no matter how you slice it, you got to take the cost of power into consideration in your overall cost of living and decide if it's worth it to be in the foothills. Reason number 7 to consider not moving to Auburn is lack of nightlife. Now, look, I have 2 young children and I'm well past the clubbing phase of my life. Not that I ever really was that interested in it to begin with. So for me, this isn't that big of a deal. But if you're still in the phase of life where you want to go out and see live music a bunch of nights a week and stay out late and have fun with your friends, there's nothing wrong with that. There's just not a lot of it on offer in Auburn. It's the kind of place where they pull the curbs in at 9 o'clock and it's kind of done. So if you're the kind of person that likes to have a beer and sit by the fire table and chit chat until 7 or 8 and go home, you're gonna be fine in Auburn. But if you want that live music or dancing or clubbing type of scene and staying out late, it's just not gonna be on offer. Now you can go down to Sacramento, 45 minutes to an hour drive, and have all of that and come home, but it is a drive and it does add to the length of your evening and all of that. So if that is important to you and having access to it, easy access to it multiple times a week, then Auburn's really not gonna be the place for you. Reason number 8 to consider maybe not moving to Auburn is less employment on offer. Now, for a small rural town, I actually think Auburn has a fair bit of employment on offer, but no matter how you slice it, it's not going to be nearly as much as is on offer down the hill in Roseville or Rockland or especially Sacramento. So let's talk about what they do have. They have a big hospital in Auburn and all the sort of medical stuff to support that. So if you're in the medical field, good chance you can actually live and work in Auburn. They do have a fair bit of big box retail. So if you're in retail, you know, you're a manager at Home Depot, Big Five, Harbor Freight, all that kind of stuff, Walmart, that kind of thing. There's gonna be a lot of that on offer up in Auburn as well. If you work in auto sales, there's fair few auto dealerships in Auburn. It is also the county seat of Placer County, so if you work county jobs, then that's gonna be on offer there as well. And there is a little bit of education jobs available, and that's about it. Beyond that, everybody else who lives and works in town is going to be self-employed, an entrepreneur of some sort. Everybody else is going to be heading down the hill towards Roseville, Rockland, Sacramento for work. So if you're not in one of those industries that I just mentioned, it means you're going to have to go out of town for work and you're going to have that 45-minute to an hour and a half commute. It also means this is probably not the kind of town that you want to move to and then find a job. There's a lot of places, you know, you can move to a big city. You can bop into and move to, you know, San Francisco and start looking for a job. You move to LA and start looking for a job. There's a lot of jobs on offer and it's just an easier place to find employment. This isn't that kind of place. You really want to have employment lined up before you move here because it's a limited job market. Okay, reason number 9 to consider not moving to Auburn is less school options. Look, if you're a family and you've got kids, then schools are a big deal to you. If you're not, then use the time codes down there and skip to the next one. But for my families, Auburn just has less school options available. Now, the options that they do have are great. They're really good schools. They're highly rated and the teachers are awesome. I encourage you to go visit the schools and talk to the teachers, talk to the administrators and get a feel for them yourselves because that's the only way to know whether it's a good fit for your kids. But overall, I have found the quality of education to be excellent in the foothills more broadly and in Auburn. But no matter how you slice it, there's just less options. There's really one high school to choose from. So if you're the kind of family that wants more options or more innovative or exciting school options, charter school options, all of that, there's just less of that on offer in Auburn. You've pretty much got some great public schools and a really supportive community for the homeschoolers, and that's about it. To get more options, you're gonna have to go down the hill into that Roseville, Rockland, Sacramento kind of area. Now, for most people, the public schools are fine and they're happy with them, but some families, they want a little more than that. They want more choice, they want more option, or their kids have already been going down the path of some sort of unique or innovative educational model or system already, and they want to try to find a version of it in the town they're moving to, and you're unlikely to find that in Auburn. So if a broad amount of school choice is important to you and your family, Auburn might not be the right fit for you. All right, reason number 10 to consider maybe not moving to Auburn is seasonal allergies. Now, for some of you, this might seem a little weird. There are allergens everywhere, and any place you live, you can get hay fever or seasonal allergies. But I would say I've lived in a lot of places, and it's worse here in the foothills than almost anywhere else I've ever lived. So, especially if you're coming from the Bay Area, there were far less seasonal allergy issues when I lived there than there are up here. Auburn, Placerville, no matter how you slice it, we're in the foothills. And what's amazing about that is the beautiful biodiversity, all the plants, all the trees, all the beautiful flowers. It's amazing here in the spring. That also means a lot of pollen and allergens flying around. For most people, it's not a big deal. You pop a little Zyrtec, you keep on moving. But if you are particularly susceptible to seasonal allergies, if you really suffer where you are from seasonal allergies, it's worth taking a look at the plants and the things we have here and seeing if those are on your allergies list, because if they are, we've got a lot of them and it's going to be a big deal for you. It's a big deal for me in the spring. It's pretty rough for a couple of weeks with the seasonal allergies up here. It's nothing that makes me want to move, but if I was suffering worse from allergies, if it was a bigger deal in my life, it would be something I would consider before moving here, and especially for those asthmatics and people out there who have bigger allergy issues. It's something to consider before moving here and look into. Come up, rent a hotel room, rent an Airbnb, spend a weekend here in the spring. Make sure you do all right with it before choosing to move here. All right, that wraps up our discussion of 10 reasons you might not want to move to Auburn, California. And I hope this has helped you decide if there's some deal breakers on this list for your family. Like I said before, I really love Auburn. I think it represents some of the very best that Northern California living has to offer, but there are downsides to every town. Every town's not for every person. If there's a deal breaker on this list for your family, it's good to know before you uproot yourself and move. Now, if you want to do a deeper dive or get a little more balanced take, you can click this video right here for my pros and cons of living in Auburn. Or if you want to see Auburn compared in a head-to-head battle against some other towns, either an analogous town right here in the foothills, you can click this video right here for Auburn versus Placerville. Or if you want to see it compared to a down-the-hill town and see what you get for your money differently in each community, you can click this video right here for Auburn versus Roseville. Now, if you want to see just a bunch of our foothills towns compared to each other, you can click that whole playlist for all the town versus town videos right there. Either way, thanks for watching, thanks for making the end with me, and I will see you on the next one.